everyone. My name is Dani Hagemeister. I am a fashion designer. I am currently designing wedding veils, bridal headpieces, and hair accessories. I originally started my business in 2010, and it was just a little Etsy store, like some of you may have experience with, I don't know. In 2010 is when Etsy became really popular. I had started making things that I wanted for myself because I couldn't find them anywhere else. And then I eventually took those things and put them on Etsy to try to sell them. I am going to kind of give you just a little crash course in my evolution since 2010, because where I started out then and where I am now are very, very different. So the first thing that I started selling on Etsy were zipper pouches and bags. And these are very time consuming to make. And people don't really want to pay very much money for them. So that was something I learned really quickly. But my first sales actually ended up being something that I had just kind of randomly decided to make because it was right before the holidays, and they are Santa hats. They were the first things that I sold. I didn't really sell the bags in the beginning, or, well, really ever, because no one wanted to buy them, actually. The Santa hats were especially popular because it was right before the holidays. That's really all it was. I had picked something that was marketable in that moment, and people were asking for them to be rushed for holiday parties and things like that. As far as the bags go, I did sell a few of them without making any money, because you can't sell them for enough money to make back what you put into it. And I had one of my first orders was a custom order, which, I mean, we're talking going in the negative there because of all the extra time and effort that went into making a custom item. So there's one other thing that I added in for the holiday season just on whim, and it was a feather headband that was Winter Wonderland inspired. It was white and it had like ice crystals on it. It was kind of cheesy, but someone bought it right away. And after the holidays died down, I went back and I said, I obviously need to change something here because the bags aren't gonna work. So I decided to go with more feather headbands. Again, so this would have been about 2011, which is when headpieces and fascinators and things like that were really popular, like Kate Middleton, all of that. So that was the next market I went to, and as soon as I did, my Etsy volume started picking up pretty quickly because I was aiming to design things that were not already in the marketplace. So when someone found what they wanted, they couldn't go anywhere else to get it. I continued down the headpiece route, and for a little while I went into making jewelry. I actually started with feather jewelry because I already had my supply chain in place and knew where I could get the feathers and make them pretty easily. The reason that I decided to add the jewelry into my product line is because I was starting to do holiday markets and summer markets, and I was looking for something to fill a lower price point, something that wasn't quite so high for the type of shopper who would be at the markets. As far as the jewelry goes, I also was selling it in boutiques locally and a few different places in the United States. I have since put the jewelry line on hold, but it will probably be coming back. So one of the next major turning points, because the feather headpieces were a great market, but eventually trends go away. So I was looking for the next new trend, and a friend asked me if I would make a 1920s inspired headpiece for one of her friends for a school project, a Photoshoot school project. And as soon as I made the piece, I calculated out exactly how much time went into it, how much it was going to cost me to make it and sell it. And I thought to myself, wow, who is going to pay this much money? I don't think it's possible. But I took the photos and I listed the item online on Etsy and on my website, and it sold surprisingly quickly. So I listed it again and it sold, and that kept happening until I ran out of the materials to be able to make it. So going on the same theme, I decided to add to the collection. I contacted the same photographer because my eyes had been opened to the possibility of professional photos and their ability to sell your product online. So I contacted the same photographer. I added more pieces to that collection. We arranged a photo shoot by asking a friend I knew in cosmetology school to do hair and makeup, and I borrowed dresses from one of the boutiques that was carrying my jewelry, and I asked a friend from my day job to model for me, and we put together a photo shoot. It was the second one that I had done, and I pretty much had the same results as the first one, where as soon as you have the images, people are able to envision themselves and what they want to be, and then they want to purchase it. So at this point, most of my orders were for special occasion, which is kind of what I was aiming for, but a surprising amount were for weddings. And I really wanted to target that market because someone who's preparing for their wedding is very specific about what they want. They're willing to purchase and pay for what it is they want the most. And if you offer them a product that there's no substitution for, they have to come to you. So at the very beginning of 2014, released my bridal collection, and I had already had a blog at this point that I had published some photo shoots that I'd done previously contact me and want to officially release the collection on their wedding inspiration blog. That's an international wedding blog. So she released it at the beginning of 2014, and since then, that's what I've been doing. So when it comes down to deciding exactly what your product is going to be, what you're going to make, even if you're not making it yourself and you're going to have it manufactured, what it is that you're going to offer up, you want to make sure that whatever it is, there's little to no substitutes for. You don't want to just offer something that's already out there, because unless you're a giant retailer or you're offering it for rock bottom prices that aren't sustainable, you really can't be successful starting small and growing big that way. So these are my 5 keys for success. I'm going to give you these to you now because I'm kind of going to change here. So we've kind of gotten to the end of the evolution and my trial and error period. I'm still learning, of course, but most of the huge changes are out of the way. So you can't just build it. You can't just put your stuff out there and hope that people are just going to miraculously find it. If you don't send out invitations to a party, no one's going to show up, right? If you can think of it, there is a way to get it done. This is 100% true, even if it's just asking people, using your network, using technology. Totally true. Innovate, focus on being original. You don't get in your own way by putting things off, but also take the time to present your best. Don't just throw it out there, but you still have to put it out there or else nothing's going to happen. And then in an online world, photos are what sell your product. And now I'm going to talk a little bit more about building your online identity, brand identity. The first topic that I want to talk about is your website. So as an e-commerce store or someone who primarily does business online, it could be a service. You could be in a service industry, but you don't actually have a storefront. So your website needs to be your storefront. It's a challenge to get people to your website. Once they get there, you don't want to go scaring them away because it looks like it's from 1991. So make sure that whatever your website image is, make sure that you're appearing professional and appearing established. Now, you don't necessarily need to already be established in order to appear established. That's why you want to take the time to really edit down and create a vision for your online storefront. Things like having a contact page with an email that's at your domain name address, right? So Dani at dananionline.com, okay? Things like that are what build up the trust from the customer. So if you just have your name at gmail.com, they're really not going to think you're a legitimate business. The same thing applies as far as credibility to social media. If you are just starting out and your social media presence is not very large, it's okay. Just work on building up your presence and wait to actually post that feed on your website until you're a little more established. Because if you're posting something up there that's not ready, it can hurt your credibility, where if you just don't have it, it's not necessarily doing damage. The same thing goes for reviews, product reviews. If you don't have very many reviews, don't show that you have no reviews. Continue to collect reviews until you have a base of them built up, and then go ahead and publish them to your website. Again, to establish credibility and not take away credibility. And then anything that you are putting on your website, you want to make sure that in the future you're going to be proud of it, right? You never know, one day something goes viral, thousands of people end up on your website that day. millions of people that day, and whatever they came there for, you don't have. They can't find it. Whatever it is, just make sure that you're as good as possible before you publish it. Okay, so the next little piece to identity, branding identity, is a logo, obviously. The bottom one is my current logo. The top three are my previous logos in order. They just kind of changed a little bit along the way. I'm really happy with my current logo because it's something that I specifically designed taking into account my brand's style, the style that I want to convey. And I also made sure not to do anything that was trendy as far as logo or as far as fonts and themes. Can anyone think of a logo that you look at it and you're like, I know exactly what period of time this is from, and there's hundreds of other people with an almost identical logo and just a different name? You don't want to be in that situation. So take the time to not choose anything trendy, but choose things that are really true to who your brand is. So the third thing, as far as your online presence, that's extremely important, and I already mentioned it, is photography. So my same method for getting photographs for my product has been true since the first photo shoot that I did. It's always a group of vendors who are interested in the same objective, which is to get good photography for their product or service. The vendors just contribute equally their own part, and everyone gets out as much effort as they put in. You really can't do a collaboration photo shoot just expecting to get free photos, because you won't be happy and you didn't put in enough effort to get the reward. I have been a part of over 150 photo shoots. So you don't need that many, definitely. There's probably only, couple handfuls that I pull photos from constantly. But it gives you a way to also reach a new audience, because those vendors that you're working with are cross-promoting your brand and product whenever they post something on social media. So for a collaboration photo shoot, everyone who's involved posts the handles and tags for the people who are in the photo shoot. So all of their followers are now seeing your product, and then it goes that way for however many people are involved. 5 people, 10 people, that's a lot of extra traffic that you wouldn't get just by putting it out yourself. Okay, so this is my Instagram right now, today. This is what it looks like. It kind of changes. This is more so what it looked like during the summer. This is more what it looks like right now during the fall. So I'm going to talk about the marketing that I normally focus on social media marketing. The reason why is it's one of the least expensive forms of marketing that you can do. And it's really also one of the most effective, but it's another one of those things where you have to put the time in to really get benefit out. Um, so the way to really make social media marketing work is to focus on one platform and then cross-post on your other platforms, similar type of posts, or sometimes even the same posts because they're usually different audiences at once. So you're focusing on one platform and then you're reaching your other platforms by just simultaneously posting. The different platforms there are, and the reasons why they're really meant to be used for different types of content. So Instagram is really, really good for visual-based marketing, pictures, things like that. This is obviously why there's no text here, right? It's just all about the photos. If you are wanting to show your customer behind the scenes, Snapchat is a really great way to do that. Or Instagram stories, which works really similarly to Snapchat, but you already have your follower base on Instagram stories. You don't have to go find them on Snapchat. So Instagram stories is just a 24-hour time period, and then it's gone, same as Snapchat. Twitter is really great if your content is information focused or if you're posting a link to your website. So anything that's text, information, and link related. And then Facebook's kind of a catch-all. It's good to treat Facebook as kind of an extension of your website. Anytime that you're updating something on your website, you should be updating something on your Facebook as well. Like if you post a blog post, make sure that's picture heavy, make sure to post those photos in a Facebook album. So the one way to make social media as easy as possible is to schedule out in advance. It's foolish to try to sit and schedule every day because you really do need to schedule something every day. It's foolish to sit and try and come up with something every day. What I do is at the beginning of the week or the end of the week, I schedule out about a week to a week and a half in advance. And then if I have anything that I want to post in between, I just add it in between. It also helps with making sure that the way that your Instagram specifically looks is not like two photos of the same thing right next to each other, things like that. So scheduling out helps you to kind of curate it a little bit better. So the other types of marketing that I use are blogs. Wedding inspiration blogs are huge, but there are blogs for just about every single industry out there. So just because it works really well for me doesn't mean that it can't work really well for you and whatever your product is. I have also been featured in a few magazines. They're like the bottom 8 ones there. The reason that I was featured in them are because of the photo shoots that I had done. So photo shoots are really a marketing tool in and of themselves. Pinterest is actually my favorite, so I don't know why I forgot about that. Pinterest is really great because all of the other social media platforms your content expires really quickly. 24 hours after you post something, pretty much no one is going to see it, right? It's not going to come up in anyone's feed. It's gone. It's there on Instagram, but only if someone comes specifically to you looking for it. What makes Pinterest great is that the pins that you put on Pinterest they start taking off as far as visibility and being repinned 3 months after you post them. So you post something on Pinterest and it's kind of hitting its peak 3 months later, right? It's important to post to Pinterest as much as possible, but at the same time, you aren't having to maintain it the same way that you are having to maintain your other social media. I have a pin that I personally, of an item of mine that I personally did not pin. It's the last one here on the far right. Someone posted this, a customer of mine posted this and then purchased it 2 years ago, and it still gets repinned like every 2 hours, which is crazy. And it has over 10,000 repins. And that's just the one instance of that image. The same image is pinned in a different instance by many other people, and those ones have thousands of repins as well. So Pinterest is where about 80 to 90% of my actual sales come from and traffic, but the people who come from Pinterest are the most likely to convert into a sale. It's also someplace that people who actually use Pinterest, actually have a Pinterest account and use it, are, I want to say it's something like, they'll go to Pinterest to search for something 3 out of 4 times compared to Google. So they'll actually go to Pinterest to search before they'll search on Google. So if you can tag yourself the right way on Pinterest so that you're showing up in their specific search, you're way more likely to be seen by them on Pinterest than you are to show up on Google. I had it pretty easy and hard. My job, it was outsourced, so I had to leave anyways. So I didn't actually have to pull the trigger and commit to it, but when my severance was over, because I had been there for 7 years, when my severance with them was over, I really had to decide, was I going to be able to live off of income from my business, or was I just gonna have to go back to work, right? So I sat down and I calculated exactly how much my personal monthly expenses are, how much my minimum business monthly expenses are, the amount of sales that I needed to make, and how much variable cost was going to come from those sales. So I set minimums for what I would need, and then I went back and I looked at previous months and previous years to see if it was going to be sustainable and get me through. Yes. So does that answer the question? Sometimes I feel a little bit guilty because I didn't actually have to walk away from a job, and I was forced to walk away from it, but it couldn't have been better. So, so the 5-hour workday, so what I calculated out with my calculations is that I would be able to make product, because I personally want to make my items. I don't have plans to hire help or to have them manufactured. The reason why is when I started designing bridal, from the very beginning, designed and chose my price points and calculated my costs so that I would be able to do it myself up to a certain volume without having to hire any help. So, because you're able to make more money, depending on what it is, if you're not having to hire out any help. Now, I could if I wanted to, but I also wanted to, so I wanted to do it myself. I also didn't want to be chained to my studio making things all day. So the calculation that I came up with was 5 hours a day making items 5 days a week, and I could have $200,000 in sales. So you can calculate what the take home might be. And calculating it at 5 hours a day is also going to leave in time for things like photo shoots, because you need to do those things, other marketing, time that you have to spend responding to customers, auxiliary items, but it was still going to allow me to work less than 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. And when I go on vacation, I'm able to leave, usually, and not have to worry about orders coming in, because I am working with bridal clients who are usually planning in advance. So a 3-week lead time is not unheard of. It's normal. So if I'm gone for 2 weeks, it's okay. Yeah. And for the things that I do have some my best selling items. People do request them pretty frequently to be rushed, but I just make a surplus, a stock of them, and I put SKUs on them, and my family knows how to ship them for me. So I just send them, print them a label from my computer wherever I am, and it comes to my printer, they package it up and put the label on. It depends on the item. I typically, so again, I was really strategic with planning out cost, how much I was going to sell it for, and how much time it was going to take me to make it. So sometimes if I really love a design, but it's going to take me too long to make it, and someone's not going to pay that much for it, I won't make it. So sometimes you have to do that, because some things just aren't sustainable, even if you really love it. My average time is 30 minutes. And my average price point is $150. A lot of times someone will come to me and they'll ask for a custom order, or they'll even just look at something that I already have made and they'll want to customize it. So yes, I do custom orders quite a bit. I've had people send me something like an heirloom or something that's special to them that they wanted included in their design, and I added in for them as well. Yeah, I really like doing custom work. Yeah. Yes, so I will post on my blog once I've finished something custom. I usually, if it's just a photo that I've taken, I usually put it on Instagram. Or if it's behind the scenes, I put it on Instagram story. Yeah, I love getting customer photos back as well. This one here is from a wedding, this top one, and then also this one is from another recent wedding. So, yeah. So your question is, how did I fund just my business? How did I keep it rolling? So in the very beginning, when I started just on Etsy in 2010, beginning of 2011, I just invested a little bit of money by buying some materials along the way. It really wasn't very much money, a few $100s. And then when I started getting sales, I just put the money back into the business, which is what a lot of people do, but they have to decide at what point they are going to pay themselves. And at the point where I was no longer working full time, that is when I did decide that I was going to have to pay myself and make sure that I was going to continue to be able to pay myself even in lower months, because bridal season's from about February until September, and then the rest of the year is pretty dead. Although it's summer in Australia during December, so I do sell, I didn't mention this, but about 40% of my orders ship out of the United States. Maybe closer to about 50% go to other countries, and then about 50% are domestic. So I do a lot of business outside of the United States, and as far as shipping is kind of one of the biggest concerns for doing that, but it's easy to figure it out. Don't be afraid to sell internationally, because that could be a huge market that you're missing out on. So one of the other things I just want to mention, because a lot of people who start selling on Etsy are really eager to get off of Etsy and do their own thing. I pretty much from the beginning ran my website parallel to Etsy, and the reason why I don't want to leave Etsy is because they have a huge customer base that specifically searches on Etsy for products that they want to buy, and they don't normally search on Google for those same products. So you're leaving behind a lot of customers if you're leaving Etsy. The other thing is that they put up Google ads for you. They market products specific to the things that people are searching for on Google. So they're doing a lot of advertising and legwork for you. So Etsy is 3.5% for their transaction fee. That's not including credit card processing, which I believe is 2.7%. 2.7% is also the transaction fee for PayPal and the transaction fee for my website's credit card processing. But because you're just paying when you actually sell something on Etsy, if you're just starting out, you don't have a huge overhead. Not that website costs are really that big, but you don't have an overhead of a website when you're only selling a few items.